Hello, party people. Welcome to episode 2 of Water Your Garden. Today's topic is going to be manifestation. And I don't mean your standard, run-of-the-mill manifestation. What we're going to be diving into today is, how do we actually integrate manifestation, the process of it within our actual life? Because I feel like I've been exploring this shit for years now. And honestly, I feel like I'm just getting to a point where I'm okay, I fully understand my manifestation process and how, when I'm actually trying to manifest something, what does that look like in terms of my daily routine? Because obviously, if you've experienced an awakening and you've actually experienced direct manifestation where it's oh my gosh, I visualized something, I embodied it, I literally took zero action and it manifested within reality. You do realize when you have those experiences, you do realize that you are the operant power and you do have the ability to manifest anything. But I think for most people, more than likely what happens is maybe it's not as intense of an experience. You manifest little things here and there, but there's nothing that's been profoundly shifting. And I think when you're in that place, it can be a little bit harder to sort of grasp how real this actually is, because realistically, we are very involved in the 3D. We have jobs, we have other people that we're interacting with. And the biggest thing that keeps you from manifesting is the constant interaction with the 3D, because your reality is continually reaffirming the thing that maybe you don't want to be manifesting. So this is going to be a realistic deep dive in how do we actually approach that, right? So you want to manifest this thing, but maybe you don't have all day, every day of distractionless time to sit and actually sit in the wish fulfilled. I've had, maybe you've experienced this too, but I've had periods of my life where I did have that time. Maybe I was unemployed or I was sick. I literally had nothing but complete isolation to actually create a new reality. And in those moments, I was able to manifest very well because there was literally, I was completely void. In those moments, I was literally in the void in my life. There was a lack of creation. And so therefore there was nothing but kind of a blank canvas. And I think moments like that are incredibly valuable. But what we're really going to be talking about today is if you already have a very full life, a very busy life, and you want things to change, right? It's very hard, in my experience, to actually sit in the wish fulfilled of say you want financial freedom, for example, or you want a totally different type of career, a totally different type of job, but every single day you're going to a job that you hate, or your schedule's completely full, you're completely booked. Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur or a business person, but you literally are not working on business at all. It's going to be really hard for you to mentally close that gap. Not that it's not possible, because I truly believe that if you repeat things enough, you will believe them. And so we'll talk about how to integrate that, but we're also going to talk about kind of the action side of things and how to actually show up in your life if you want to make a radical shift, but it's really hard for you to believe it. And you also don't really know what action to be taking. You know what I mean? Because yes, you can manifest without action, but action also does serve a very valuable purpose. So we're going to be talking about how to sort of merge these two worlds, the worlds of manifestation and the energetics of things, also with the physicality and the real life principles that so many of us experience on a day-to-day basis. So like I said, I've really been exploring these concepts for years now, and I've kind of been on all sides of it. I've been on the side where I've solely focused on energetics, and it works, but you have to devote a lot to this, you know what I mean? Because in my experience, the gap you have to close is bigger in terms of your belief and your energetics. And then I've also obviously been on the other side of things where it's you're trying to take all this action in the physical world, but you don't believe it. The energetics aren't there. So we're going to talk about how to merge those two things to make it overall just easier on you and make your life better and make changes happen within your reality much quicker. And honestly, it's fun too. This is supposed to be a fun process. Not the stressful thing that it can so often be. We really want to make sure that we're not coming from a place of lack. We're not trying to change this thing. Every day, we're just closing the gap a little bit more, and we're having fun with it. We're playing with it. We're bending reality. We're molding reality. So a lot we're going to talk about today. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to say is energetics truly are everything. So I think you really have to experience this directly to kind of know what I mean. But if you haven't, don't worry. It's something that you can experience. But like, if you truly want to manifest, your actual identity, like your energetic signature, has to shift. I think many of us have been in the place where we're like, oh my gosh, like I'm doing the affirmations, like I'm doing the scripting, like I'm doing all these things, and nothing's changing. But like, there is a huge difference between like going through the motions and like doing the things and doing that from like the current version of you versus like, oh, like I've shifted. Like now energetically, I am actually a different person. And you have to experience this directly to actually know what I mean, because it's very like, it's a feeling process. So like the more you do this, like the easier it gets, because you're like, oh, like I understand you understand how your energetic signature feels and what it feels like when that actually shifts. So that is the key out of any sort of manifestation, because that's the thing that's actually getting reflected back to us. Like I'm not saying that going through the motions can't be helpful, but like you really have to make sure that the energetics like internally are shifting. You in that very moment, in that present moment, have to totally become a different person in order for reality to shift for you. So this is a really big thing to keep in mind. And honestly, I'm not going to say it's not work, because it is challenging. Like you really have to dive into like your awareness and like detach from yourself. And sometimes like, even if you're going into meditations or like scripting and things, it can take time to get to this point. And it's definitely like work. Like in a sense, like there is discipline involved in manifestation. Like if you really are like diligent and really want to shift like who you are and how reality is reflecting back to you, like it can take a lot of effort to actually get to this point, and it can expel a lot of energy too. So I think that's important to keep in mind. But like, let me ask you this, like, would you rather just go through the manifestation motions, not really try that hard, kind of be ho-hum about it and like half-hearted about it, and just see like basic shifts, like move like very, very slowly, like now and then over time? Or would you actually like to do the work and dive into it and make sure that things are changing and things are shifting in order to actually see quicker results in your life? I just think it's important to look at it like this, because manifestation is not effortless. Like just because you don't have to take action in the physical world doesn't mean that you don't have to do work. Like you do have to do work to shift your vibration, to shift your energy, to literally become a new person, create a new reality. So I think it's important to sort of frame it like that, in a way that's exciting. Like not that we want to be like adverse to it, but the fact that we want to get excited about this work. It's like, it's essentially, this is what it is. It's like if God came up to you, if reality came to you and said, hey, I want you to sit and design and create your dream reality, and I want you to do it in detail. Like you have to write 500 pages about it or whatever. That's going to be work. That's going to require mental engagement. That's going to require a commitment on your part to make that happen, to do that, to sit down and design your life. But if you knew that it would come true, if you knew that it would all happen for you, like, would you be adverse to that work? Like, no, you'd be like, I'm literally creating my dream reality. Like that's the most exciting work that there is. And like, I want to get that point across, because like when you really start to get into this and like see the results of it, like you'll realize like you are an inherent creator. Like you want to create, like you want to have your hands in the clay. You want to play with these things. So that's why I really want to talk about like how we actually, in my experience, like the best way to integrate this into real life, because like you are constantly manifesting. And so this is going to be like, it's not like manifesting is just something you do when you want something. Like your thoughts, your vibration, your energy is perpetually creating your reality. So we're going to talk about like how to build systems and processes to make sure that you are continually building a life that you enjoy. And it's not just something you come back to, you know, when things are a mess or you really want something. Like we want to keep moving you in the right direction and closing that gap, because it should be fun for you. Like this is, it's so inherent to our nature. Like it's who we are. We're natural creators. Like we came here to play with this mirage and like experience it and sculpt it and mold it. So like have fun with it. Like make it part of your daily process, make it part of your practice. Like maybe you're not in a place now where you can really do that. And I get that, because I think so many people like come to personal development and come to manifestation, you know, content strategies, like when things are very hard and very challenging. And I think that's equal parts like kind of sad and also kind of beautiful. But what I do want to say is like, if you are in a place where it's like life is maybe not great for you, like maybe life is actually kind of shitty right now, and like you really just need to get out of the current like circumstances that you're in. First of all, I want to say that it's okay, and it's okay to like not feel super like satisfied and like great. And honestly, manifestation and like personal development might feel like a chore for you. You know what I mean? It also might feel like the best thing that's ever happened to you, because it gives you hope. Like it gives you something to work towards and to work on, which is ultimately the point. But one thing I do want to say is like, even if it's not now, like even if this stuff does feel kind of heavy and just something you're trying to do to like get out of your current circumstances, it won't always be that way. Like there will come a point where like life is much better for you and you're in a place where this can be a little bit lighter and this can be a little bit more fun for you and a little bit more playful. And ultimately, like that's kind of what I'm getting at, is like that's the place we want to be in. Like we want it to just be a regular part of our practice and something that we're integrating so that it can be fun, and like shit doesn't have to just like hit the fan and fall apart before we actually start looking at what's going on within our energy and within our thoughts and like what we're ultimately like creating within our life. So that's the first point I want to get at, is like make sure that you're paying attention to your vibration and your energy. Like this is the key. Like, and that's why in terms of manifestation, like there's so many different tools, and like to be honest with you, in my experience, like it doesn't matter what tools you're using, it matters how it impacts you. So pay attention to what actually makes that shift within you, and realistically this is probably going to be a number of things for different times, so that you really want to always be experimenting and like playing around with what feels the best to you. For me, I tend to see things shift the quickest when I do visualizations, and this is either like walking meditations, like waking meditations, like with my eyes open, or eyes closed, like total darkness, like Dr. Joe Dispenza visualizations. I just get in the energy. I can just immerse myself in the energy so much. And don't get me wrong, it takes time to get to that point. Like when I first started visualizing, it was really hard for me to feel anything and to visualize anything. And it takes practice to build on that. So don't give up on something super quick just because maybe it doesn't feel the best, you're not seeing results. Keep coming back to it and say like, okay, how is this feeling now? Like, how is this feeling now? Do I have to adjust it? You know, maybe switch things up, see what works for you. But what I do want to say, but visualizations are not always the thing that works best for me, because like, for example, if you're in a state where you like the gap between what you want and how you're feeling now is so big, it might not always be the best to like do a quantum jumping meditation or like something that's like a really big gap. And I say this because sometimes if you really don't believe it, it can build up resistance even more. And this isn't always the case, because if you go into meditation and you are able to get like beyond your sense of self, like beyond the 3D, beyond your senses, this can be really profound because it can open up doors very quickly for you. But sometimes when you're in the state, it might be helpful just to be a little bit more gentle, like something like general affirmations or like general scripting, or even just like generally feeling better, like opening up your thoughts, like say, for example, you are trying to manifest more money, but you have tons of debt and you can't pay your bills. Like even just like reframing some of those things, like I would speak to like Abraham Hicks teachings a lot. Like these, in my experience, like in manifestation, like their teachings are incredibly valuable for like the in-between of life. You know what I mean? So when you're not visualizing, when you're not affirming, when you're not scripting, like you're just living within your life, paying attention to your emotional guidance system is going to be key. And a lot of times it is just going general. You know what I mean? So like if you're stressing over not being able to pay your bills and you're trying to manifest more money, that's not like, those two things are not in alignment. You know what I mean? Because if you were in the reality and the frequency and the identity of the person that had money, you would not be stressing about that thing. But obviously that's challenging because you have a life and there's this 3D reality like spewing things back at you, so you're really just supposed to like ignore it and like not respond. You can do that, and a lot of times like that's what the manifestation community preaches, and I think that's fine because it does work. It can just be kind of challenging and oftentimes build up resistance. So going general about things, in my experience, has been very helpful. So look at the very general positive aspects of that. Like maybe you are not doing well financially, but maybe you're doing better than you did 2 years ago, or maybe you've developed new high income skill sets, or maybe there's one bill that you can pay. Focus on that. Like anything that gives you relief or feels generally better, just keep doing that and milking that. Momentum is going to build on that. So I want you to just find every single area that you can do that on any single subject, to just go general and get yourself feeling better. And then from there you can start getting more specific, and you keep working your way up. Then eventually you can start affirming, you can start scripting, and you can start building on that momentum. And then eventually you can start doing visualization. So like, the better you're feeling, this is an Abraham Hicks teaching too, the better you're feeling, the more specific you want to be, because specificity increases momentum. But if you're not feeling good, the less specific you want to be. So if you're in a place where you don't feel good, go general. Like, be as general as you can possibly be. And this has helped me immensely just for moving in the right direction. And I think especially if you're in a place where it's like, hey, like I don't feel very happy with my life. Like, I don't feel very pleased with the way things are going. Get as general as you possibly can and give yourself some sweet relief, baby girl, because you ultimately, the only reason we want anything in this life is because we think it's going to make us feel better. So try to remember that too. Like, don't beat yourself up so much. All of this manifestation business is about not being connected to the 3D. That's how you manifest, is you detach from the 3D. So try to remember that the whole point of any of this is just to make you feel good. And it's not the external world. It's not the mirror that's going to make you feel good. It's you feeling good is going to make the mirror change. So anything we can do to just like make you feel better, to give you relief, like we want to do. Your mental health is always first. Like that's a priority A, and then B, that's also how we manifest. Like, we need to be able to feel better and embody a new frequency and a new vibration. Okay, what else do we want to talk about? Oh, I'm dehydrated. Water your garden. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is more of like the physical side of things. So we talked about like the energetics and like the manifestation side of things, but like, what does that look like? Like, if you have time, like you should develop a very specific manifestation routine that works for you. So like, I am at a point in my life now where I do have more time. But there were points in my life where I didn't have a lot of time. So I would give myself as much time as I possibly could in the morning and the evenings to do my meditations, to do my visualizations, scripting, what have you. It might be a mix of things, just depending on the day. But I was rigid about this because I wanted to shift my energy and I wanted to create a new reality. So whatever you can do, just be disciplined about it and make sure that you're setting aside time and getting into a space where nobody's going to bother you. Because literally, I want you to think of manifestation and like energetic maintenance as a non-negotiable. Like, it should be like working out for you or like eating healthy. Like, it's so necessary because like your energy literally impacts everything in your life. Like, this work is literally changing the way your life shows up for you. And so it needs to be prioritized like that. Even if so it shouldn't be just something we just pick up and do whenever we want something. Like, this needs to be a regular part of our process. So, yeah. But I think one of the big questions comes down to is like, I think one of the big questions it comes down to is like, what are we supposed to do then when we are not in ritual, in ceremony, when we're not doing our manifestation practices? You know what I mean? Say you're at work, say you're at school, like you have a life, you're doing things. The first thing I want to kind of bring attention to is like, you're not as busy as you think. And I don't mean that you don't have to be places and do things. I mean that your mental consciousness is not needed and demanded as much as you probably think. And I know people are probably arguing with me right now, but just pay attention to this, because I used to feel this way too, where I was like, I can't watch my thoughts. I can't be aware of who I'm being because I'm busy. I'm at work. I'm at school. I'm working out. I'm doing things. But there's such a difference between being in awareness and like doing things. Like, you can do them simultaneously, and that takes practice. And I'm not saying it doesn't take discipline and it's not difficult, but it's very doable. Like, you can show up and do your job and do work and also be aware of like, oh, who am I being right now? Like, what thoughts are coming up? What energy am I in? So I hate to say it, and this is not the truth pill you want to swallow, I am sure, but your manifestation practices don't end when your ceremony ends and when you're done using your tools. Like, meditation doesn't end at the end of meditation. It's just something to help you go deeper so that it's easier for you to step back into that state throughout the day. But you need to make sure that you are maintaining that state throughout the day. And if it's really hard for you, like I said, just go general, but you need to pay attention to how you're feeling, because you are constantly manifesting, you're constantly emitting things and creating things. So you always need to ask yourself, like, the feeling I'm feeling right now, do I want to feel more of it? The thing I'm thinking about right now, do I want to manifest more of that? If the answer is no, then we have to make a shift. So there's really no way around it. Like, you have to become more aware in order to manifest. And this means staying conscious throughout the day. But in terms of action, and I think we all know, obviously, you don't need to take action to manifest. And I kind of want to take a new approach. I want you to take a new approach to what action is, because you don't have to take any action to manifest, as I'm sure you know, and I'm sure you've heard if you haven't experienced it directly. But then what is action, right? Because there are those times where it's like, oh, like I took this and this happened, but I think I manifested. But like, obviously we want to take inspired action. So like, if you're questioning whether you should do something, it's probably a no, because like when you're taking inspired action, like there is no question in your mind that like, this is the thing I want to be doing. This is the thing I should be doing. It's like, it's a non-negotiable. Like, that's what you want to be doing. You're going to feel so good about it that like no one can tell you shit. So like, follow those feelings, like the next logical step, the next good thing that you feel like you should do, like lean into those things. Those are the things that are going to bring you closer to your goal ultimately. The other thing that I think could be helpful in terms of like the physical side of things is like, while action can lead us to our manifestations, and if it's an inspired action, it most likely will, I think action, in my experience, is also a great way to, it's a demonstration of the new identity of you. You know what I mean? So like, think of it like that. And I'm going to give you 2 examples, because if you are trying to become an entrepreneur and you're if you're trying to be a full-time business owner, you want a really successful business, and you start working on your business, but like, you're like, oh, you're trying to figure it out. You're coming from a place of lack and you're trying to like get to point B. That's a very different energy than being like, oh, I already know it's done. I already know it's manifested. It's already mine. I'm already this person because I've shifted my energy. And then working on your business from a place of like already having, it's totally different. So like one is a means to an end, because like you already are that person, like you already have the thing. You're just there to enjoy it and play. It's an expression of who you already are. And the other one is also an expression of who you are, because you haven't shifted. So it's not a means to an end. Like you're doing something to try to get to an end result. Watch out for action like that, because that's not inspired action, and it's not an expression of the new version of you, of the new identity of you. So that's another thing, is like another helpful practice that you may benefit from is like sitting down and writing about not the reality you want, but the version of you, a new self-concept. Like who would that version of you be that has the dream body, that has the dream partner, the dream house, whatever it is that you want? How would they show up? Like, how would things look for them? How would they feel? How would they talk? How would they walk? The more detailed you can get, the better, because this is going to give you, and you can meditate on this too, like this has to do with like quantum jumping, like you're kind of meeting that version of yourself, that reality, and it gives you insights as to how their energetic signature kind of demonstrates itself, so you can close that gap. If that multi-millionaire version of you probably has a lot more confidence. They stand with their shoulders spread. They walk tall, they smile, they look people in the eye, they feel confident. They're probably showing up radically different than you are now. But the more you can actually take action that aligns with that version of them, with the energy of like being that version of them, it's an expression of your new reality, of your new identity. You're going to start to feel like that person. You're going to start to feel like you're living that reality. So see where you can integrate little pieces of that. There's probably like way more opportunities to do this throughout the day and throughout your life than you even realize. And this has helped me immensely by just getting clear on like who's the highest version of me, and how is she showing up? What is she doing differently? And then doing those things as being that version of me already. Like this what this does is like, this kind of bridges the two worlds, because like it allows you to show up in your physical world as you're meant to. And you're probably going to see immediate results just by showing up differently there. But it's also going to make you subconsciously believe you're that much closer to the reality you're trying to manifest. So when you go back into ceremony and you're using your tools and you're in visualization, it's going to be that much easier for you to imagine being that person, because you have showed up as them more often. Like you're closing that gap from both ends. And that's really how we want to approach these two things. So, So yeah, I hope this was helpful. Remember to like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys for joining me, and comment below what you think or any other tips and tricks that you have. I think it's just so fascinating to dive into the energetics and the physical practices of these things, but we're all capable of creating our own reality. And so I love just continuing to learn with you guys and share. Yeah, thanks for joining me, and I love you so much. Bye-bye.